Hey guys, today's topic is, can I have grace for myself? So, I got this book for my birthday. I got it yesterday, even though today is my birthday. I got it from my sister-in-law, Sam. It's called Grace Not Perfection by Emily Lay, I think is how it's pronounced. Alright, I'm going to try to be authentic again today. So that book spoke to me because perfectionism is something that I have struggled with in the past, and grace is something that is very important to me. It's a core value of mine. It is my daughter's middle name, and it basically encompasses every aspect of my life, what I believe about myself and about others. I need to show grace to others, and I need to show grace to myself, and sometimes it's harder to do that for myself than for others. So that's the topic I want to think deeply about today. I had a situation, was it just yesterday? I think it was yesterday. I was working on my computer at the island in the kitchen at my in-laws' house, and my father-in-law walks in the room, and I asked him how his friend was doing. He went to see his friend that morning, and I didn't look up when I was working at my computer. I just was kind of still on my computer. He was walking to the fridge and opening the fridge. So we were kind of having a conversation without looking at each other. And later I was thinking, why did I do that? I should have been more engaged with him. I should have been more present in the moment, and I should have asked him with more sympathy and really caring about how is your friend doing? How is the situation? Not asking because I knew he had gone there this morning and I wanted to, ask the appropriate question, how did it go? And that's not a big deal. He didn't care. I'm sure he thought it was totally fine and normal. But for me, I have a really high standard for myself. I'm the kind of person who, if I don't get an A+, I feel like I failed. And it wasn't always that way in school, but it kind of is like that in life for me. And I think some people out there feel that way too. But we need to know that while we're trying to improve ourselves, it doesn't mean that where we are now is being a failure. That's really important for me to remember, and I think that's a huge aspect of what grace is. Grace isn't, I'm totally okay where I am and I'm never going to grow again, but it is, where I am is where I am. That is how I acted on that day in that specific situation because of where my brain was. I was distracted. I wanted to be kind and polite. That's why I brought up the conversation. But knowing who I really am, knowing my highest potential, knowing that I am kind and considerate and do care about people, and I do care about his friend, whom I know, and about my father-in-law himself. So wanting to express that in a fuller way is really good, and it's important to grow from our mistakes, or not even mistakes, but things that we notice about ourselves like that can bring out the best in us. Not just good, but the best. And also having grace and realizing just because we're not doing every single thing exactly the way that ideally we would do it in every situation, it doesn't mean that we're failing. Everything is okay, and life is a process, and we can have grace for ourselves and for other people. If somebody did that for me, I would just be happy. I'd be like, hey, we had a good conversation. Me and that person are great. I wouldn't be like, wow, they didn't turn away from their computer. I didn't either. I was looking in the fridge. I wanted a snack. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's easier to have grace for other people than we do for ourselves. So let's show ourselves that level of grace as well. So that's one topic. I'm not going super deep because really what I want to focus on is this other topic. My friend, I haven't spoken to in a while, but he was pretty close to me at one point in my life. I just found out he got in trouble with the law, and it's kind of a big deal, and it's kind of devastating and really sad, and I'm really struggling with that. And Jay and I, my husband, we were talking about how did that happen? Because he's a great guy. This was blind, this blindsided us. We had no idea. And I think that's true of a lot of people in his life. So how does like a good person have compromise or whatever in their life that leads to really negative consequences? And I think it's really something called the slight edge. So that's another thing. By the way, that book that I showed you, I haven't read it yet or anything. I just thought it was interesting that the cover was exactly what I'm learning in my life. So I just got it yesterday and I hadn't heard of it before. So I don't know if I can totally recommend it, but I'm sure it's great. So check it out if you want. And also check out the book, The Slight Edge. I forget the author. I'm not like affiliate linking any of these things, but I love sharing awesome things with other people. Like I think that networking and just connecting and sharing goodness with other people for the sake of improving their life is just a great thing to do. Maybe in the future I'll have affiliate links. I'm being extremely authentic as that's my goal. Okay, I'm being extremely authentic in saying that, but I'm trying to be authentic in my communication with you too, as if I'm just really talking heart to heart with a really good friend. So in the future, I may have affiliate links. I don't know if you're like supposed to say that in vlogs. I think kind of you sort of are, but it's okay if you don't. But if I do, I think that that's fine too, because I'm doing a service to the people who want to get their books marketed. I would never market something that I don't believe in. I would say something like a disclaimer, like I haven't read the book yet, but my sister-in-law recommends it. You know, that kind of thing. So I always want to be really honest and really open with everybody out there. Back to my friend. So the slight edge is basically the law of like exponents. What you do a little bit gains momentum and grows and grows and grows. It's a snowball effect, right? You have a little snowball and you roll it down the mountain and it keeps picking up more and more snow until it becomes this like huge boulder of snow. And with money, we talk about this with investments, right? You invest a little bit of money and it earns interest, compounding over time. That's the word. So we're talking about compounding interest. This is true in real life of if you start doing good things, smallest level of good things, practicing good habits, going to bed at the same time every night or waking up at the same time every morning. If you do it 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, it becomes easier, it becomes more of a habit, more ingrained, and it's more and more powerful. Negative habits are the same way. You just make a slight compromise and that grows and grows and grows and grows. So I was dynalisting this. I talked about this in my last video. Dynalist is a journaling tool I like to use where you just go deeper and deeper and deeper, kind of like those nested eggs or like those Russian nesting dolls or whatever they are, or an onion. You go deeper and deeper. So we're going deeper into the thought, can I have grace for myself? Can I have grace for others? And while no one is perfect, how do I keep growing and not all of a sudden find myself like totally out there? I was thinking of it like this. If you're intentional about getting where you want to be and achieving your goals, start small and start with the little things and build those good habits that lead you that way. If you're not intentional, so like people don't intentionally sabotage themselves. We talked about self-sabotage in my last video. People don't intentionally sabotage themselves. It's more like if you're just not intentional, then you naturally can find yourself in a place you don't want to be because you don't know where you want to go. You don't know what direction you're heading. So you're going to be standing still and not going anywhere, and you probably just don't want to stay there forever because you're trying to grow, right? So it's also like if you're in the ocean and you're not swimming somewhere, you're not in a boat directing yourself somewhere, the tide will pull you out, and all of a sudden you're not paying attention, you're not being intentional about where you're going, you're lost at sea, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm in the middle of the ocean. A lot of analogies and pictures as I was journaling, so I'm just like spouting off all these analogies to you, but the slight edge is the basically key to success, as I think Jeff, somebody, I can put the link in the description. He writes this book, The Slight Edge, and he talks about it's basically the key to success or failure in life. If you feel like you keep trying and failing, trying and failing, or trying and failing, or you're just like trying, you get to this plateau, it's probably because you're not sticking to the small stuff, sticking to those little things that are really important. Like we talked about our fundies yesterday. You've got to eat, move, and sleep in a good way that brings you energy and brings you health so that you can succeed in those big things that you're trying to do. So I'm going to look at Dynalist. So real quick, this is Dynalist. So I've got all of them open, but I can close the sections again. Jay would be like, oh my gosh, seriously, you did not just do that. You need to, so he would say like, I need to do a screenshot, which I probably will eventually. But this is specific topic, right? A specific node, trying not to get the glare. And then I can back up to my entire journal. If I want, I can shrink. So all I have are, these are my main points, and then I dig deeper. Here's how I go deeper. Okay, so my conversation about my father-in-law Jack and his friend. So what did I learn from that? I can learn from my mistakes without putting myself down for them. Next thought, deeper. Everyone does the best they can with what they have in the moment. So everyone is doing the best that they can. Why would I be putting myself down? I did the best that I could. Did the best that I could with what I have. But I want to learn from my mistakes as well. My slight edge note. Okay, so here's where we get into living with integrity. Integrity is doing and saying the same things. So believing that something is right and living that way as well. When there's a lack of integrity, it's where you, in your heart, feel like something is right, but for whatever reason you don't live that way, or you don't fall. It's not just, oh, I think that telling the truth is right, but I'm lying. Like, that can be a lack of integrity, but it's more like, this is my standard, and I am just not even, there's like, yeah, I'm just gonna wait. Integrity is when you know what's right and you're brave enough to step out and follow that. A lack of integrity is like, yeah, I see that life should be lived this way, but I'm gonna live my life this way anyway. And if you try to think deeply and that's how you're living right now, then you're gonna be basically driving yourself crazy. Nobody can live that way. And so then people just avoid thinking deeply. And I think that's what happened with my friend. He was like trying to live a good life, but kind of like bored at the same time with doing the right things. Didn't really have a lot of passion or direction, knowing where he wanted to go, living with intentionality, with integrity. Like, this is the good life and I am pursuing it. It was more like, I want to try to do the right thing, but I feel like it doesn't really give me the results I want, and so maybe I'm going to dabble in this as well. And that little bit of compromise, dabbling in things that really don't lead to the good life, just grew and grew and grew and led him into a bad place. So we want to make sure that we are living with integrity, not just because, hey, this is the right thing and I'm going to be doing the right thing. It's not like, even if you believe the wrong thing, like ultimate truth, the wrong thing, like say you come from a culture where it's like, I don't know, cannibalism or something. But you believe that cannibalism is okay because that's how you were raised. And you eat people. As a society, we generally frown on cannibalism, right? So maybe eventually you'll learn, wait a second, I probably shouldn't do this. This is kind of not contributing to great, like, societal benefit. But in that moment where you believed it and you were acting on that, you had integrity. You didn't have this disconnect between what you said or what you thought and how you acted. If you have that disconnect, it's impossible to think deeply without driving yourself crazy, because you'll be like, oh my gosh, I can't do what I want to do. Or you'll either feel imprisoned, I can't do what I want to do, or you'll realize like, I don't have the guts to do what I want to do, and you'll just have this self-loathing. Like, literally, this is what drives people crazy. Feeling like there's this standard over here, and then this is them on this other side, and they can't be true to their identity. They can't be true. It's not just ultimate. See, that's what I'm trying to say. It's not just ultimate, this is right and this is wrong, and I can't be good enough. It's not about that. It's not the perfectionism thing. It's not like I can't be the ultimate standard of perfection. It's not even that. It's like, hey, here's where I am right now. And yet, like, this is Kay, right? My name is Kay. I don't even know if I said that in the first video. I'm Kay, and I'm living like Bob. Like, what is that? You drive yourself crazy. You can't, it's like you're not even, if you're not being true to yourself and what you believe, like, about yourself, like, you can believe ultimate standard, always tell the truth. In this case, I felt like the right thing to do was tell a little white lie or something, or like avoid the truth because they're devastated at this scenario and it's not like the right time to tell them the truth or whatever. But I did that because I felt like it was the right thing to do in that time. Okay, so you're living with integrity, but maybe you're not living up to your ultimate standard, right? But you like understand why and you're like getting there or something like that, right? But if you're like, okay, I believe that like everybody who tells a lie like deserves like death instantly. And then you're like lying all the time. You're like, how, but you're okay with that. Like you're like, yeah, I lie all the time. But wait, I believe anybody who lies should be dead. Like there's this disconnect. It's like, it's craziness, you understand? So I can't get into specifics, but like my friend basically preached one thing and did the exact opposite with his life. And you're like, how does that happen? It's gotta be a lack of thinking deeply. So guys, here's what I'm trying to say. Have grace for yourself when you mess up. It's not a big deal if you mess up and you realize, I didn't live up to my own standard. I get that, and I'm growing and I'm getting there. That's one thing. It's another thing if you think your life is this way, you think of your life this way, you believe this, and then you do this. That's like two different, those two scenarios I set up are two totally different things. One is living a life of integrity. You realize your failings and you realize you're growing towards something. The other is like delusion and craziness. So we've got to watch out for that. And basically, if you start thinking deeply and you let yourself go there, you let yourself think deeply, then you're gonna find integrity. Because you're gonna be thinking, why do I do this? Why do I do this? And your actions are gonna come out of your beliefs and your thoughts and stuff. So you've gotta be brave enough to follow a line of thought that will take you to the truth, whatever it may be. Realize what you really think. Once you realize what you really think, you can act on that. So if my friend had thought deeply and was like, I actually don't believe in living life this way, then maybe he would realize how he does want to live life, and he wouldn't have like swung to this pendulum of this other side, this like opposite of what he wanted to live. You know what I mean? So maybe this was what he said, but it really wasn't satisfying to him. If he thought deeply about what he really wanted, then he could pursue that. He'd be intentional. He'd be on a path. He wouldn't just be, I'm not going to think, I'm just going to go with whatever comes up. Temptation, distraction, compromise, a little bit, more. Don't even realize where you're going. You're lost out at sea. You know what I mean? So that's why I think deeply is super, super, super important. One more thought. Let me just check my notes. Oh yeah. So The other thing that comes when you see somebody go off the deep end is like, you think, what Jason thought, that could be me. Jay was like, that could totally be me. I was brought up the same way. I had the same role. Why is that not me? Like, that could totally be me in a different scenario. And that can lead to two different kinds of thoughts. One, you don't really think that could be me. And you think, wow, I made better choices. Like, I'm better than that person. And you're like judgmental about it. You're like, okay, good. I'm glad that I at least had the bravery to do this or whatever. So there's an aspect of pride there, and that's the wrong way to think about it. And the second way is fear. That could be me. Like, there's nothing keeping me here. Like, I've been shown so much blessing and so much grace, and if that's just removed from my life, I'm gonna end up there. Or what if I like accidentally slip or whatever? And so here's the answer to that, to both kinds of thinking. Number one, yes, that could be you, but there's a reason it's not. And yes, we've been shown grace, and that means we've been given things that we don't deserve. Like, I have an amazing, beautiful, wonderful, happy daughter. I really didn't do anything to deserve her. Like, if she was like emotionally unstable or throwing tantrums every second of every day, or even if she had some kind of disability or was born with a birth defect or something like that, that would be fine. Like, we would love her still. But I'm super blessed to have a healthy, happy daughter. Like, that's a big blessing. And I didn't do anything to deserve that. That's grace. The other kind of grace is just showing mercy. It's a little bit more mercy on ourselves when we make mistakes, right? And both of those are important. But when we're talking about this kind of like a self-righteous thing, I don't know if you guys know about that word, but self-righteous is like, I am succeeding in life because I made these choices. Like, there's a certain level of truth to that. Like, I don't drink or smoke or do the things that you're not supposed to do when you're pregnant that can cause birth defects. Now, there could be birth defects for other reasons, of course, but I was healthy during my pregnancy, and I did try to not self-sabotage my child, you know what I mean? So there are certain things that you can do without feeling self-righteous about it. I would never be like, Emma's happy because of me. Emma's a great, healthy child because of me. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be like proud about that, like prideful in a negative sense. I'm proud of who she is in a motherly sense, but I would never be prideful because there's nothing that I did to, you know what I mean? You do the best you can with what you have. And that's something you can be proud of in a good way without being self-righteous or judgmental towards other people who don't do that. Because everyone, when you believe that everyone is doing the best that they can with what they have, then you realize, like, I've been blessed to grow up in a society, in a time period that has the internet, so I can learn what things are good for pregnancy and what things aren't. And so you realize, like, it's not something you can take credit for while still being proud of, I tried really hard and accomplished my goal, you know? Then there's the other side of fear. That could be me. I could slip at any moment. Sorry, my camera shut off. So that could be me. I could slip at any moment. The way that you safeguard against that is the slight edge, right? When you're intentional and you're moving toward one direction, unless it's like something surprising like a hurricane hits you or whatever, that's outside of your control. If it's this living with integrity or without integrity, as we're talking about it, you won't all of a sudden live without integrity when you've been following a life of integrity intentionally. You know what I mean? So it's not like all of a sudden I'm going to find myself an alcoholic pregnant with my child when I'm like trying to live a healthy pregnancy. You know what I mean? So when we are being intentional about living the way that we want to live and pursuing the good life and the good things in life, and we know what good things are, right guys? Like, Come on, if we're honest with ourselves and we journal it out and we think deeply, love is good, fear is bad. Those are the ultimates, right? Love is all the way on the good side of the spectrum. Fear is all the way on the negative side of the spectrum. Fear can be good, right? If it's saving you from pain, like I'm afraid of crossing this highway because a truck could hit me, that's fine. But you know what I mean, right? Ultimately, we've got good on one side and bad on the other, and some things in the middle are a little bit more confusing. Think deeply about that, figure out what you believe, and walk in integrity to that belief. But let's think about these things and be intentional. When we are intentional, then we don't have to be afraid I might slip, while still realizing that could have been me. And I'm so grateful that God put things in my life to protect me, or that God put people in my life to influence me in a certain way so that I became a certain kind of person. But I really truly believe that no matter what, like, my friend's identity is a good person. Like, you might make mistakes. You out there may have made mistakes that are really devastating, that are really perhaps shameful. You feel shame or guilt about them, whatever. But know that you are a good person, and that God loves you, and that He has a plan for you no matter what. And you totally are redeemable. You've already been redeemed and justified. You're awesome. You are totally awesome. And there is good for you. There's a good plan for you. And you gotta be brave enough to think deeply about your life, about where you want to go, and about what you want to do, and be brave enough to take action steps that live in alignment with what you believe and where you want to go. And then for you out there that make small mistakes and kill yourself over it, kind of like me, but not anymore, because I've chosen to slight edge, make the choices of showing myself grace a little bit more every day. Remember that you can grow without putting yourself down for making a mistake. You can always just learn. Like, next time that happens with my father-in-law, I'm gonna turn and be like, hey, how's everything going? Like, I'm looking you in the eye and I'm caring for you. Boom. That's what matters. Like, now that's who I am. Now that's how I'll act. Done. Not a big deal. Just think about it, figure out what you want to do, and do it next time. You know what I mean? So think deeply is the answer. Whether you're like making tiny mistakes or making huge mistakes, remember that it's not the big decisions a lot of times that lead you down the right path or the wrong path. It's the little ones. So don't make the compromises. Make the compromises for good. Make the little changes and adjustments for good. Compromise. I'm not going to eat that dessert one more time. I'm going to have, I don't know, carrots or whatever is healthy for you. So yeah, just those little compromises for good. Make the little right choices a little bit more every day, and you'll be on your way. And think about it. Be intentional. All right, so show yourself grace. I love you guys. Bye.